A lot of people in this country are angry, and they have every right in the world to be angry. Some of them are here tonight, and some of them are at the tea party. But people have a right, working people have an absolute right to be angry, and let me tell you why. All of you are aware that in the last number of decades, there has been a huge explosion in technology. All kinds of computer technology and robotics, and you name it. The bottom line of all of that technology does what? It makes the average American worker more productive. Average American worker today is producing a lot more than he or she used to. And if you lived in a rational economy, what you would expect would happen is one of two things. If you are producing 30% more because of new technology, you might make 30% more. Or you might be working significantly fewer hours and producing what you used to. When I was a kid in college, they taught a course. And the course was about what would happen to the American worker when he or she was only working 15 or 20 hours a week because of technology. They don't teach that course anymore. The course they now teach is how does a family deal with all of the stress when dad's working 50 hours a week and mom's working 45 hours a week and they don't have any time with the kids. Those are the courses they are teaching today. Since 1999, the median family income, that family right in the middle of the American economy, has seen a decline in their income by $5,000 since 1999. Now let me tell the young people here something they probably won't believe, but it is true. Not so many years ago, when some of us with gray hair were growing up, the expectation in America, the reality in America, was that one person, in those days, mostly the men, one person could work 40 hours a week and pay the bills for the family, right?
Yeah.
Today, you got two people working in a family, and they often have less disposable income than the one income family did back 30 years ago.
True.
Right? Today, that median family income is less than it was 25 years ago. So what is the reality? You're seeing people in Iowa, Vermont, all over this country, they're working like mad. In my state, honest to God, it is not unusual for people to be working 2, 3, 4 jobs to cobble together an income and maybe some health insurance. People are physically, emotionally exhausted. That is how hard they are working, and yet they are earning less income than they used to. The median male worker, that male worker right in the middle, made $280 less last year than he did 44 years ago. You know why people are angry? That's why they are angry.
Absolutely.
The typical female worker, that woman right in the middle of the economy, earned $1,700 less last year than she did in 2007. In other words, the working class of this country is on the move. The problem is we are moving in the wrong direction. Are we better off today than we were 6 years ago? And the answer is yes. Now I know many people, we as Americans, have notoriously short memories. 6 years ago when Bush left office, we were losing, it's unbelievable, 700,000 jobs a month. The financial system in the United States, as all of you remember, and in the world, was on the verge of collapse. Ben Bernanke pointed out recently, he thought the 2008 crisis was actually more perilous than the Great Depression. And we ran up a deficit that year of $1.4 trillion. The answer is, of course, we are better off today than we were 6 years ago, but people don't feel it, they don't perceive it. And the reason is that many of the new jobs that are being created pay substantially less than the jobs that we lost. In fact, 23% lost. And most of the new jobs that are out there are often part-time and low-wage jobs. So we're creating jobs, but not the quality jobs that our economy needs. Now, why is that? Well, we can go on for many hours as to why that, and I hope some of you will raise some issues in question and answer. But I'll tell you one thing. We have a disastrous trade policy starting from NAFTA to CAFTA to permanent normal trade relations with China. Since 2001, we have lost 60,000 factories in America. Young people don't know it, but there was once a time when you could go to a department store and buy products made in the United States of America and not in China. Now, not all of those jobs were lost because of trade, but many of them were, and we're talking about millions of decent paying jobs. Not so many years ago, and in one paragraph, you know what the economy, the transition in the American economy. 25 years ago or so, the largest private sector employer in America was General Motors. Strong union, decent wages, decent benefits. Today, the largest employer in America, private employer, is Walmart. Low wages, virtually no benefits, vehemently anti-union, and by the way, the largest recipient of corporate welfare of any company in America. Now, let me touch on another issue. Young people especially, but all of us are concerned about. That is the issue of education. I'll tell you where we are right now. 30 years ago, the United States led the world in the percentage of our people who graduated college. Okay, that's what we did. Today, in a highly competitive global economy where everybody knows it is absolutely key that our people have the best education possible, today we are in 12th place. And you heard from the young man up here talking about education. We got hundreds of thousands of bright young people in this country who no longer even dream about going to college. And then we got millions of others who are graduating, 29,000 on average here in Iowa in debt, go to graduate school, it is higher. I talked to a young woman in Burlington, Vermont, graduating medical school, $300,000 in debt. Now, what kind of sense is it that when we need the best educated workforce that we can possibly get in order to compete in a competitive global economy, we make it impossible for working class families to get a decent education? And we've got to learn a lesson from some of our competitors in Denmark and Sweden who understand that free public education should not end at grade 12. So the bottom line in terms of the economy can be summarized in the following way. The great middle class of this country, and I should tell you that my dad came to this country from Poland without a nickel in his pocket, worked his whole life, never made any money, but he was able to send his two sons to college. Pretty big deal. And that is the story of millions of families. And yet that great middle class, which historically has been the envy of the world, frankly, is now disappearing. And millions of Americans who are no longer able to get decent paying jobs with decent benefits are now working at Burger King and McDonald's and Walmart. And the ranks of the poor have grown and grown. Now, we don't talk about it. Apparently, it's against the law for the media to talk about poverty. But we have more people living in poverty today than any time in the history of the United States of America. That's a fact.
That's a crying shame.
It is a shame. Now, that's the reality facing the vast majority of the people in this country. But there is another economic reality out there that I think galls at people. It is one thing if disaster comes and everybody, hurricanes come and floods come and everybody gets impacted. But you all know that there's something unique about the economy at this moment, and that is, while the middle class disappears, while people work longer hours for low wages, while we have more people living in poverty than ever before, there is another economic reality. And that is that the people on top have never, ever had it so good. So we are looking now at a proliferation of millionaires and billionaires. We are looking at corporate profits at an all-time high. That is the dynamic of the American economy today. People on top doing phenomenally well, virtually everybody else struggling.
It's called indentured servitude.
In some cases it is.
Yeah.
And let me mention to you, I want to bore you with a few statistics, but it's important that you hear it because you're not going to see it on TV or hear it from most public people. But right now, the United States has, by far, the most unequal distribution of wealth and income of any major country on earth. You know, when we were kids, we studied about England and their queens and kings and dukes and all the stuff they got. You said, boy, that's a real class-ridden society. Guess what? We have more income and wealth and equality in the United States than in the UK or any other major country on earth. Listen to this. Today, the top 1% owns 37% of the wealth of America. Top 1%. Who wants to guess what the bottom 60% own? 1.7%. All right? You all eat pizza here in Iowa, right? Okay. Take a pizza, divide it into 100 slices, let that reflect the 300 plus million people in America. One guy, who's awfully chubby, gets 37 of those pizzas, 37 slices. The 60 people at the bottom have to share 1.7 pieces of pizza, slices of pizza. That is the distribution of wealth in America. Distribution of income, on wealth, you have one family, the Walton family of Walmart, owning more wealth than the bottom 40% of the American people. Now, in terms of income, which is what we make in a year, situation is equally dismal. As all of you know, the economists talk about growth in the GDP. Was it 2%, 4%, 6%? And all of that stuff is really important. But what's more important is who gets what of the growth. Since the Wall Street disaster, 95% of all new income generated in America went to the top 1%. Got it? So in a sense, it doesn't matter about economic growth, because if it's 5% or 8% or 2%, it is not the middle class that's getting any of it. 95% of it is going to the top 1%. Last year, the top 25 hedge fund managers, these are the billionaires who we don't know what they do. Nobody does, but they make a lot of money. These guys made $24 billion. That is equivalent to the pay of more than 425,000 public school teachers. 25 hedge fund managers make as much money as 425,000 public school teachers, and all over America. In Vermont, I suspect in Iowa, school districts are grappling with difficult budgets, cutting teachers. And this is where we are at. I talked a little bit, and let me say a word about taxes. You've already heard a very good presentation on it. Bottom line is, as you've heard, back in 1952, corporations contributed about 32% of all federal revenue. Today, it is less than 10%. 1 out of 4 profitable corporations, including some that our panelists mentioned, Verizon, General Electric, in a given year, pay 0 in taxes. I've talked a little bit about the economy and the political life. Now what I want to do is to say this. All of the issues that we've talked about, all of the decisions essentially result from policies developed to benefit the people on top and not the vast majority of the people. I want to lay out an agenda, and it's not an exhaustive agenda. There are issues that I'm not going to get into, but I think an agenda that can rebuild the middle class of this country and restore a lot of faith in the system to tens of millions of people who have lost it. All right. Every poll that people do, that the newspapers do, when they ask people, what is on your mind? What's the issue? Always, It is the economy and jobs. And the reason for that, as I just mentioned, is that real unemployment is 12%, and people are scared to death that they can lose their job tomorrow. Their company goes to China or whatever. We need a major federal jobs program to put millions of people back to work. Now, right now, I can tell you in Vermont, and I suspect it's true in Iowa and all over this country, our infrastructure is crumbling. Those are roads, bridges, airports, water systems, wastewater plants. Our rail is way behind Europe, Japan, etc. What the American Society of Civil Engineers tells us is that we need to invest $3 trillion in rebuilding our infrastructure. Now, coincidentally, $3 trillion is exactly what we spent on the war in Iraq, a war we should never have gotten into in the first place.